Welcome to the Authentically Elisa podcast, Reshaping Business with Integrity, the podcast where we explore how to run your business authentically and with integrity. I'm your host, Elisa Bogarts, a business coach and launch manager, helping coaches launch their programs and events that align with their business values. Together, we'll uncover the secrets to building a successful business without sacrificing morals, ethics, authenticity, or heart. Let's dive in. All right, so let's dive into today's episode. Today, we're going to be talking about scaling your list as a business owner. And my amazing guest today is Cary Richards. And Cary spent years in the trenches of the corporate sales world, and all the while dreaming one day of becoming his own boss. And then several years ago, setting out on a mission of discovery, Cary began searching for a way to become a full-time internet entrepreneur. After a very steep learning curve, which I think many of us can relate to, and several dead ends, virtually, opportunity finally met with preparation, and Infostack.io was born. And today, Cary is focused and passionate about bringing high quality teaching, information, and resources to those searching for a way to fulfill their dreams without breaking the bank. Welcome, Cary.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're here. Cary and I worked together, and it was always, even the few times that we met before working together, I always, like, you have such a warm and open personality, and you always so I thought this was perfect for this podcast. I always thought that you've always been very authentic in your, in dealing within your business.
Yep.
So,
appreciate it.
Tell me about, so you kind of just went into it a little bit with your story, but how you got into this field of work and just why you're so passionate about it.
Oh, well, yeah. So, I'm no spring chicken. And so, yeah, I spent years and years and years in the sales field. Spent 13 years in the residential real estate industry. And then got completely burnt out on that and went into more of the corporate sales world. And the last thing I was doing was selling commercial alarm systems for ADT.
Oh.
And so hated every minute of it. And a lot of ups and downs, and that's a very streamlined version right there. So there's a lot of ups and downs and backs and forth in that, right? But I'd always, ever since I was in high school, I'd always dreamed of and wanted to do something, have a business for myself, right? Be my own boss. And I'll tell you the sort of detailing version of how I kind of got into this whole thing is that my boss at the time at ADT had mentioned to me one time, actually had, well, I won't go into all the details, but she had mentioned to me that she said, "Gosh, you are really a good writer." I had written several emails for a bunch of different purposes, and she said, "You really write really well," and just a light bulb went off over my head on the thing, and because I had heard about people writing books and publishing them on Amazon and making money. So I figured, well, wait a minute, maybe that's a way that I can, start my own business and just become an authorpreneur, right? So I started doing that. I started writing these short, not very good self-help books and publishing them on Amazon. And I think I wrote like 12 or 13 books.
Wow.
And was publishing quite often and figuring out how to market them and all that stuff. And it actually was going okay. I was, occasionally I'd make $1,200 or something like that a month on it.
Wow.
But it was real up and down, and it turned out it just wasn't, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. It was for the amount of effort and time and, stress that it took to do all that. It was not getting me where I wanted to go financially. But within that, in doing all of that, right, I kind of got to know some other people in the internet marketing world, and ended up taking a bunch of courses, spent a bunch of money I didn't have on a bunch of courses. And, over a period of like a year and a half or two, even, um, I learned a bunch of stuff. And I remember I was going back through one of the courses I had taken earlier because I didn't know what else to do at that point. And I literally sat straight up in my chair at one point. It just hit me because I'm not a world's expert at anything, right? So I'm not going to go create a course on something because I'm not an expert at anything, right? Uh, so what I'll do is I'll curate other people's really good courses and different resources and put them together and sell them at a discount. Um, and so that was the kernel of the idea of Infostack. And so um, I hit the ground running and going full speed ahead to get that going. I was having trouble getting the first one up and running. It was just me, right? So I'm trying to create a web page, build a web page, and figure out the funnels and all that stuff. And it was really I wasn't getting very far very fast. And I happened to join a mastermind group that was run by a guy named Tom Morcus. And so Tom was able to kind of hold my hand through getting the first stack, the first ever stack. It was late June of 2018. It's called Write, Publish, Profit. And he was able to kind of, again, do it kind of done with me kind of a thing and get that first one launched. And I'll never forget it. Sitting there watching ThriveCart, our affiliate program, watching that dashboard, and watching the numbers click, 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 click like in real time, and all of a sudden there's $3,000 in there, and then wait a minute, now there's $8,000 in there. Well, wait a minute, now there's $20,000 in there, and it's just quick, quick, and it's like, oh my God. And we did
Wow.
that first launch, we did $75,000 in top line revenue.
Wow.
And
That's
it's like,
incredible.
okay, I guess this works. Uh, and then at that point, Tom got back to me and said, you need a partner. And I said, well, yeah, I can't do this by myself. So he and I partnered up 50-50, and we basically co-founded Infostack off of that first stack that we did in late June of 2018.
Wow, what a story and what an amazing successful beginning. That's
Yeah, it
incredible.
was pretty amazing to sit there and actually realize that these kinds of things can actually work, and that people will buy that. We just created this thing out of nothing, and people are knocking themselves over trying to buy the damn thing. So yeah, it was
Yeah, because
amazing.
it's pretty awesome what you're saying. Like so much of your story, I think so many people can resonate with, the whole idea of wanting to be your own boss, but then going out there and trying to do something and it's not really working for the first bit. And even like you were saying, the so many courses, doing so many courses and spending so much money on that, which is what I love about Infostack is that it like can offer these courses and you actually get them
Yeah.
and all you're doing
It's
is
like I
buying
didn't have an
stacks.
info stack that I could go and do all this stuff with, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that's what's so great about it is that someone can just invest a small amount of money and get access to like all these different sort of courses or workbooks or information that's really going to help them based on a
Yep.
specific thing. And that just gives, that's just such a relief, I think, especially to so many entrepreneurs who might be struggling or solopreneurs who, like you at the very beginning, it's, I mean, you're not selling the books you want to sell, or you're not making the money you want to sell. And you need to learn more, but spending, investing another however many thousands of dollars on the next
All right.
course, kind of after a while, especially if you've been burned and maybe you didn't learn what you thought you were going to learn, or the person you didn't think delivered, or it just wasn't a right fit, or whatever it was. Um, Yeah, I see so
Well, that's
many.
really something too that I was surprised at, okay, because I went into this thing strictly to make money, right? That's like I'm not here to uh, to be warm and fuzzy. I'm here to make some dough, you know. But having said that, it really has been gratifying over the years to realize how many people that we've actually helped because of that, right? They've actually been able to get this really solid information that they would have paid thousands of dollars for. They only spend $49 for the thing, and it was kind of shocking and gratifying to read some of the testimonials and things that how much we've served these people that have bought these stacks.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Which kind of brings me into this, um, bringing in like or running a business, authentically being yourself, but also doing it like with integrity. Like as I say, we all are in business, to make money. That is part of it for sure. And there is sort of like a service element to it. But yeah, I'd be curious because I find, at least for me as well, or many other people don't love sales. And of course, you're in sales, and some people can have like a negative connotation towards sales, right? It's like the S word and it's so icky or whatever. Um, so, yeah, what's your kind of thoughts around authentic selling?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's it, right? I mean, uh, again, I've spent years and years in the sales business. And so many times, whatever company you're working for or whatever product it is, they want you to memorize this script and do this sort of canned presentation. And it's, and when they say this, then you say that. And when and I know I could never figure that out, how that worked. Whenever I was successful at doing it, it was just because I would show up and say, hey, here I am. Here's what this thing is. Here's why it's pretty good. And just be a human being and just talk to them. Here's this thing. Um, here's why it's good. Here's why the competitors, here's what the competitor, whatever it is, right? Um, and then just ask them to buy it. So, what do you think? Is it, does that work for you? Should we? You know,
Yeah, yeah.
and just do it as a person and not try to sell them, and have it be okay that they say no. It's like, no, all right. And you might go back and say, well, really? Because here and here and here, this and this and this. No, oh, all right.
Yep.
I always felt I'm much better to just get down the road and get to somebody who really wants the thing than to sit there and hammer on somebody who doesn't really want it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I find that too in my, and there's even people who teach this about as a coach having this sort of, it is almost like a sales script, or there's so many different words for it. And you have this discovery call or strategy call or whatever call. It's basically a sales call. And I've been provided by several different people some type of script and I've always found that hasn't really worked. So I always been like, okay, this is what I'm told I have to do. So therefore I have to follow this thing and answer these
Right.
questions. And it was like a little bit kind of stressful. So I don't think I was actually really being very present. And it's so interesting for me that many of the clients that I've gotten, it didn't start as a sales call. It was usually just some type of like get to know me call, or maybe it was going to be like a joint venture partnership or something like that. And
Right.
we started chatting
Yep.
and they're like, actually, I think I'm going to need your help. And then all of a sudden it turned into a sales call.
Right.
And they're like, well, tell me about what it is and how much the things cost and blah, blah, blah. And then I would just be like, oh, well, now I can just naturally talk about what I do as opposed, there was no script for me to reference.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, that always works so much better than this sales call with these questions I had to ask.
Yeah. I mean, and so again, I worked for a number of different companies over my years in the sales business. Uh, and they'd always have something, some script or some, here's how you do it. And, I'd learn it, and that's the thing, you got to learn it. You got to know the product. You got to learn,
Right.
you got to know what you're talking about. Right. But then I just throw it away,
Yeah.
you know, and just
Yeah,
go
it's the
out and
thing.
just talk to people, I
Yeah.
mean, that's all it is. It's just because people will buy stuff from you if they know, like, and trust you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can just talk to them as a person, and be interested in them, be curious about what they're doing, curious about their business, curious about what it is that would make them a customer for you, authentically curious,
Yeah.
and just get to know them. And then, okay, so here's this thing. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Most of
Yeah.
the time, I found that we way more successful than some canned approach there where you're trying to just slam them into the thing.
Yeah, I think so too. And when you just kind of sort of, yeah, speak naturally and sort of speak from the heart, especially I think is like a lot of, you know, people that probably listen to this podcast are like the solopreneurs or the coaches or the entrepreneurs. And so it's usually your own business and it's you that you're actually
Right,
selling. And so if you can just naturally talk about you, and then I think that's kind of where like the passion and excitement shine through as opposed to being like, oh, I gotta like read some script and like,
right.
yeah, or follow
Yeah.
some process specifically. And I get that. I think it's good to have sort of the framework being like, this is kind of where you want to lead them, but it doesn't have to go in a specific order. There at some
Yeah.
point in the
Yeah.
conversation, you're going to talk about their pain. And some point in the conversation, you'll be like, oh, well, maybe I have a solution and here are the benefits to it. And this is why it's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
You gotta have that kind of in the background, uh, but not in a canned way, not in a scripted way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about how people can scale their list. Give us some tips on that and growing their list because I know that that is something that is huge in this world and that there's it often gets asked, right? How big is your email list size? And if you got like a
Right.
small list, then you're sort of immediately cut out. Or sometimes like for me, for example, my list is like 2,500 and I think that's ginormous. I was like, I never thought that I'd ever be emailing 2,500 people. But in the world of coaching, that's actually considered a small list. And so we're always looking to grow and scale that because the bigger your list is, the more opportunities, the more connections. Um, yeah. So let's talk about scaling
Yeah.
that.
So I mean, Infostack, we've got a pretty decent list these days. Um, that we grew it sort of organically out of the people who purchased the stacks. And that's
Right.
the weird thing about Infostack is that most businesses, and excuse me, and rightfully so, most businesses' goal is to build that list and then utilize that list. Uh, the goal for Infostack when we started was not to build a list necessarily. It
Right.
was it was to put these bundles together and then utilize everybody else's list to to sell the bundles. And in doing so, then we ended up building a pretty good list.
Right.
Um, and so, I think that's uh, probably the best way to build a list is to work with other people and utilize their lists. And there's a bunch of different ways to do that, but put together something, either a lead magnet or a tripwire level product that you can work with others on some JV type or strategic partnership type situations where they can help you sell that thing or give that thing away to their list. And then you can glean people onto your list from doing that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is one of the best ways for sure. Or like InfoStack does, host your own thing. So if say you hosted your own summit, or if you hosted your own gift giveaway or something like that, where you bring
Exactly.
on
Yeah.
people and I love doing that, like even in my own business, because all the contributors that I would bring on to my gift giveaway were people that I know and work with and are JV partners that we've either had conversations with or supported each other or promoted each other in some way. And so it was really easy just to talk to my kind of coach friends and be like, hey, you want to come on my thing? Let's all do this together. And then all of a sudden you have 20, 30 people and they all have whatever 500 to 10,000
Yes.
people on their list. And then your reach is so huge. And then everybody who signs up to it goes on your list as
Yeah.
opposed to like if you join a gift giveaway, you will get definitely people on your list, but it'll be smaller than if you hosted it yourself.
Well, and yeah, and um, there are those companies out there that create giveaways, right? Um, which is fine. I don't discourage people necessarily from doing that. The people who sign on to giveaways are not necessarily the best leads for you.
Right.
And so some will be, but there's a lot of them on there. So if you do a lot of giveaway type stuff, um, you just have to keep in mind that every so often you got to go back and clean your list out of the people that aren't even clicking on your stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. You're never even opening your email.
and that's where I think the Infostack does a really good job. Is that um, everybody you get on your list from participating in a stack, and again that's one of the keys is participate in bundle events. Participating in bundle events is a really good way to build your list.
Hmm.
Um, but everybody who buys a bundle is somebody who has purchased information in your niche, right?
Yes.
And so that's a much better lead than just somebody that clicked on a giveaway or something.
Exactly. And it shows as well that they're willing to spend and they're willing to invest in
Exactly.
themselves and that
Yeah.
they're interested in the information as opposed to someone who's just, trying to gather
So
free
somebody who
information
buys
somewhere.
something, even if it's $40 or whatever it is is way more apt to purchase something else in that niche than somebody who just download or give away for there's a lot of freebie seekers out there that just don't even care about whatever it is you know many
Yeah.
people will download a lead magnet or a free gift or something like that and then never even look at
Yes, 100%. Yeah. I may never look at your email again or
it.
subscribe immediately, but somebody who, yeah, like purchases a stack and then gets your gift, um, are more likely to stick around because they actually, yeah, are really
Yep.
quite interested in it. And
Yep.
also what you provide is something more than just some PDF checklist
Yeah.
or
A
whatever.
checklist or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which those are great, but this is something a little bit more involved.
Yeah.
And
So
if
again,
the, if
there's
you,
nothing wrong with that, but yeah, just
yeah.
just just keep in mind. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also if, you contribute to something like a super stack or a bundle or something like that, the gift that you give is actually something that you sell. So it's
Yes.
more of an investment in time. And so if someone, you know, gets your gift that you give, um, that'll build a know, like, and trust because they'll actually have more exposure to you as
Yes.
opposed to just some checklist. They actually, they will look at your e-course or read your book or whatever, or come to your workshop or whatever it might be and spend that time with you. So it's really a win all around.
Yes. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, so based on what we spoke about today, is there any sort of like specific action you think our listeners can do to scale their
Well, get a hold of me and I'll get you the information about the upcoming stacks. And if you want to join a stack, we can talk about how to do that. Um, and yeah, so I would say the other thing I would say is to not give up. If you're
mm,
just starting out and want to develop an online business, realize that there's a lot of intricacies to it, and you need to go on that steep learning curve and glean all the information you can, and understand that probably the first or second or third or fifth thing that you do is probably not going to work.
right?
So just keep going and in those failures you'll learn and you just fail forward and keep going and it'll eventually pay off.
Exactly. And something to kind of bring it back to when you were talking about your sort of story was that, you know, to get help, look for partners. We should not be doing this alone. And like, were
Exactly.
having difficulties with the tech, and trying to set up this whole stack. And then you end up having this partnership and he was able to do that. And you two had your strengths. And so I think that's also really important. And I know there's so many people who hate the tech. And so, it's good to just get somebody to do that for you. Like,
Yeah.
don't struggle with it. Don't do it alone.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, there's no way if I was just doing this all by myself and never got help that I'd be nowhere. Yeah. So excellent point.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. So where can our listeners find you online if they do want to do a stack? How can they get a hold of you?
Well, my email is Cary, Cary, at Infostack, Infostack.io. And so that's really the best thing. Just email me and say, hey, what's going on? Uh, and we'll get you the information about what is happening, and we've all, we're adding different stuff, and it's metamorphosing as we go all the time. And so we'll just tell you what's going on, and if I can help you in any way, then I'm definitely willing to do that.
Awesome. Thank you. And that's something that I really love about Cary's business model is that you talk to him first. You reach out and actually he's, your point of contact. So you start to build that relationship. And then, if you decide to go onto a stack, then you kind of can, then you're in his world and you can remain a partner and continue working together going
Hey.
forward. And so I think that's that personal touch, I think sometimes can be missing with some other coaches. And so,
Mhm.
I think that's really good little takeaway that maybe the people could take with them to be like, how can I be more like that front face and build those relationships with people.
Perfect. Yep.
All right. Thank you, Cary. Thanks you so much for being on the show. It was great chatting
Well,
with you.
thank you for having me, and yeah, that's been great.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope it inspired you to live a more authentic life. I'd love your help in inspiring more people to live authentically. So please follow, rate, and leave a review so we can create a ripple effect of authenticity. Until next time, stay true to you, be bold, and thrive on your own terms. This is Elisa signing off authentically.